firm believer that writing is your gift to the next generation. And our next guest, Taisha Beasley, helps authors around the world share their stories through the gift of writing. Taisha is a publisher at November Media Publishing Company, and we are so grateful to have her here today.
No, I'm honored to be here. Of course, you're fabulous.
Thank you. Yes. But no, I met you. I met you at an entrepreneurship panel, and it was really a gift to hear your story, to hear how passionate you are about helping other people tell their stories, because that's what we do with this platform.
Yeah.
We help people tell their stories in hopes of inspiring others.
Yes.
And as you know, I went through law school, had a very difficult time in undergrad, went from having a 2.1 GPA.
Oh my goodness, your story was incredible.
Out of the University of Illinois and on to eventually graduating from Northwestern Law cum laude and working at a large law firm in Chicago. And you are helping me currently tell my story.
Oh my goodness. I just got inspired all over again sitting here when you were sharing it. I'm like, this is why.
No, it is a blessing to be able to give people your gift on a larger scale.
Absolutely.
And I think that that's what writing is, and that's what you do. And so I'm happy that you're going to help me publish my book, The Law School Hustle, coming soon.
Yes.
And I'm also happy to hear about your story, because people think that for people that they see on platforms, you start from up here.
Yeah.
And that's not always the case.
Absolutely not.
Not always the case.
No.
And so I know you're a mom, an entrepreneur, a Christian, and a wife.
A wife.
And a wife.
Can't forget the wife component, because that is like 50%.
Prevalent through everything. Yes.
Yes.
So tell us, how did you start November Media Publishing Company?
It was definitely a mistake.
Okay.
Just to go back to tell a little bit of the story and the history, I am a writer and an author first.
Okay.
So I put out my first book called The Misconception of Modesty in 2013, I believe. And the book was a hot mess. I'm not going to lie.
So what was The Misconception of Modesty about?
So at the time, I had a Christian organization that really encouraged women of God to really just live a life that's pleasing to God. And so when people heard, my company was called Banner of Modesty, when they heard that title, they were like, oh, you're legalistic. You're just going to tell us how to dress. And that wasn't what I was trying to portray through the organization. So I was like, I need to write a book. So, as an amateur writer, I put together this manuscript. Actually, I took some blogs, because I blogged at the time, and I just kind of took them and turned them into chapters.
Okay.
And it was very easy. And I put it together, and I sent it to a couple publishing agencies. Okay. And they all rejected it.
Okay.
Because this was my first book, and I was a new writer. I loved to write, and I think I was a good writer, but there's logistics to creating an industry standard book, and we'll talk about that later. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to self-publish this book and just have it when I go speaking and do events for my company, and I'll have it available. And so my family and friends are very supportive, but that was kind of like the start and the spark of the whole writing and publishing industry for me.
So you self-published your own book and eventually decided, this is what I love to do, not just writing, but also publishing. And then you learned everything and eventually created November Media Publishing.
Well,
is that the correct title of the company?
Yes.
November Media. Okay.
Yes.
Great.
We were November Media Publishing and Consulting firm.
Okay.
But recently, after working with my mentor, she kind of encouraged me to drop the consulting firm. Okay. Because my ultimate vision for the company is to just create really amazing books and do more publishing than consulting. But I do coaching and things of that nature. But yeah.
Okay.
It's November Media Publishing.
November Media Publishing. Okay,
Yes.
Great. So we're going to get more into November Media Publishing a little bit later.
Absolutely.
But I want to back up a bit and talk about your beginnings.
Okay.
So were you always a business owner, or how did you get your start? What was your first job after college?
Okay, so I went to school for political science. I graduated from Western Illinois University.
All right.
Shout out WIU. Okay. I wanted to go into law. I actually wanted to be an attorney. This is probably why we have so much in common.
Exactly.
And so right after law school, I went to work downtown at a law firm, and I was like a paralegal. I worked with the attorneys. And
I apologize.
Thank you.
In advance.
Thank you. Because that's partially why I didn't pursue my career.
For some reason, people think lawyers can be hard to work with. I can't imagine why.
I can tell you some reasons. But yeah, so I started there, and then afterwards I was looking for, I knew that I loved law, but I was looking for something more.
Fulfilling.
More fulfilling.
I understand.
Not saying that law wasn't. It
Yeah.
was just for me, I was looking for something more fulfilling, more comfortable for me because of my personality.
Exactly.
So I ended up taking a job as a domestic violence court advocate.
Wow.
Yeah. And starting that career, being trained, because you kind of have to be trained. You have to know the legal side, and you have to know like counseling and how to help women who are in that situation.
Wow.
And so I ended up taking that job, and I stayed in the field for like 8 to 9 years.
Whoa, that is significant. So you were advocating for victims of domestic violence for a while.
Yeah.
Helping them, again, tell their stories, getting the courage to tell their stories.
Yes.
That's phenomenal.
Yes.
Now, through that, so you went to college, went to Western, worked at a law firm, and put the stops on that, went to do domestic violence work. When did you get married?
Wow. I think I was 26 when I got married.
Okay.
David and I, we knew the same group of friends.
Okay.
We, at the time, my mentor, she kind of was helping me grow spiritually. And so he was hanging around that group, and he was actually dating someone else in the group. Yeah, but we're just going to leave that at that.
Okay.
And so I never paid any attention to him. He never paid me any attention.
Okay.
And it was kind of like, this is just my brother in Christ. And one day, we had a conversation after church, and my eyes was kind of like, woo.
Okay.
It was like, he's not just a
I
brother.
could see that, because when you started talking about David, your face lit up.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
Yes, he's awesome. And especially given my history with relationships, he was just a breath of fresh air. So yeah.
So a part of the show is passion, and that's where we talk about love and marriage and intimacy and all of that. And so I do want to know, at what point in your career did you get married? So you were 26. Is this right after?
No, I was working full time as a domestic violence court advocate.
Okay.
So my career was just starting. I was traveling a lot. I was going to like Springfield to do advocacy with the agency that I was working with. So I was very involved in my career. I didn't have any children. I was single.
Of course, right.
And so I was just able to do that. And honestly, I wasn't looking for a relationship when when David found me. Because
found you.
He found me. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing he said he loved about me, that I wasn't looking, and that it was kind of like I was doing my own thing. Yeah. And so I guess that made the pursuit even better for him. But I was just in a different place. I was trying to build my career as I thought an advocate, That's what I thought my long-term career was going to be. And so I was just really trying to advance myself in that career.
So while you were an advocate, were you still writing pretty consistently?
Actually, no. Like my first book, Misconception of Modesty, that was kind of just like, it was supposed to be a one-time project.
Okay.
And what happened was I ended up trying to get that book into like Barnes and Nobles. And they were, I went to Barnes and Nobles, and they were like, well, you need a real ISBN. I'm like, what the heck are you talking about? They started giving me a list of things that I need. They look for in industry standard books. And so that kind of like, I started doing research, and it kind of like sparked this whole like publishing bug. But it really, I wasn't thinking I was going to publish other people. I was thinking I'll just get my book together and publish my book really well. And so actually, I had a blog, and I started writing a fictional story. Okay. So I think the fictional story that I started to write really sparked that writer in me. Okay. Because self-help is good, and I like self-help books, but I love like fiction. Yes. Because you can get lost, you can be whoever you want to be. I'm Tiffany, Sasha, who you want me to be today? I started to write my first book, and that's kind of like how that whole like writing passion sparked for me. Okay.
And now, were your coworkers supportive of your writing passion while you were while you were an advocate?
So towards the end of my career as an advocate, me and David had been married for maybe 3 or 4 years at this point, and I was working with the Cook County State's Attorney's Office in Chicago as an advocate, domestic violence advocate. And so I remember we would have caseloads, and once you were done with your clients for the day, you kind of just sat in the courtroom and watched the other cases.
Right.
And so I remember after my caseload was done, we had like sticky notes on at the desk that you can sit at. And so I would be sitting there writing like my book, like, and I was into it. I'm like, and Tiffany walked out the door, you know, I'm like into it. And so my coworkers knew that I was writing a book. They knew that that was kind of like a growing passion of mine. And so they were like, I would run out of sticky notes, and there would be like some at the other end of the table, and they would start like passing them down.
They were helping.
They were helping, very supportive, very encouraging. So like I really did have a good support system, like as a writer, but I was still working a 9-to-5 job. So this was still kind of just like a growing passion.
So you were working a 9-to-5 job, and what was your husband doing at the time?
At the time, my husband was in school. He went to school to be an occupational therapy assistant. And so he was going to school full time at that point, and we had just had a newborn baby.
Wow.
Yeah, and he was working overnight. So the struggle was real.
Wow.
It was real. He would go to school during the day. I would keep our son at night, be up with him half the night, then get up and go to work. Because at the time, I was currently the breadwinner of the family, like, and I don't like that term. Right. But, you know, sometimes as women, we we're in that position to provide most of the income for the family.
Is that how you imagined it would be when you got married?
No.
Because I know we have these fairy tales.
Absolutely.
I idolized my parents' marriage. I really hold it in high esteem. And a part of that is I can call my dad right now, right? Not only would he pick up the phone, but he would provide whatever it was. I'd be like, Dad, I need a plane. He'd be like, okay, I don't have a plane. We're going to call somebody to get a plane. You know what I mean? If my mom needed anything, he was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And I've always seen a man not only work hard, provide, and to be honest, have money, right? Like, you know, so my view of it is like, I can work. I can do whatever I got to do, but Daddy got my back. You know what I mean? So, like, that's how I grew up seeing it. And I noticed, and now this is because, now, to be clear, my mom worked. She stayed home with us for a little bit, but now, I mean, she just got her MBA. She's fabulous, phenomenal, doing her thing. She worked, and if there was ever lack, she would pick it up. And I saw that towards the tail, like when I was getting older. But when you're a kid, you look at your parents and you just think that it all happens organically. And our parents, my parents, I'll speak for myself, didn't show me the darker sides of marriage.
Oh, yeah.
But now that I'm married, I see that it is a real team effort on every level.
Absolutely.
And sometimes we have to roll up our sleeves. But was that your image of marriage? Were you ready to jump in like that? Did you think it was going to be happily ever after, or what did?
Honestly, at that point, I was so used to being independent before David found me. I knew that I had the better job, and so growing up, that wasn't my, like, oh, I'm going to get married and be the main source of income. That wasn't my imagery. But I think it became more realistic. Just seeing the way the world operates now, it takes two incomes to live the way that you want. And so
that's the key. To live the way, because I'm not sacrificing what I want. That's what we not gonna do.
And I can see, Pooh.
Baby, I can't get, mama gotta go to work. Like, I don't got no problem.
That is the key. That is the key. And so, like, I knew one thing about David, that he was a hard worker. So I told my mom, I said, I may earn more than him, but I know for a fact that man is going to get up and work, and that's all that mattered.
And you said you told your mom, so was that a concern of the parents at one point? It's just like, how is it all going to work out?
My mom asked me.
Similar.
My mom asked me, she said, so what does he do? You know, because your career is going pretty well.
That's how parents are. They like, what he bringing to the table? Because you didn't got it all set. So what food you putting on the table?
And so I was like, you know, he does. At the time, I think he was just I think he was working at FedEx. I'm not sure. He was just he really didn't find his passion until we had Nehemiah, our son.
Yeah.
But he was just working at FedEx. But it was, I knew that he loved me and he was going to provide however he needed to.
Yeah.
If he needed to go work 12 jobs, I knew
he
would do it.
And that matters. And I do, because I get a lot of questions from young women about getting married and what to do and what to look for. And I have friends who have lists. I want them to be 6'4", I want them to have 6 figures, and I want them to be fine. And I was like, all of that's great. I think you should marry. They're not married. Okay.
But that's another show.
That's another show. But I say that to say I think women have to marry, women and men, both. You should marry for character.
Yeah.
Everything else can change. But a man's character tells you who he will be in 20 years.
Yes.
And you may not be 6. You may keep your height, but you may not be fine and balling when you're old and wrinkled. But if you have good character, and I saw that in my husband, and that was what made me say, you know what, I can follow this man. I can trust this man with all of me. And marriage isn't about happily ever after. It is about legacy.
Absolutely.
You can't build legacy with every man. That's just the truth.
This is, man, you speaking my language. This is awesome. That is so true. So very true. And I could totally relate to that because even now that David is in a position where he could provide financially, it just makes it more sweeter.
It does.
Because it's like we was on this journey together. Yes. But I did tell him now that I was there when you was in the beginning. You can't leave, or I'm taking everything. Like I helped you get here, so I'm not gonna let Betsy come in and still take my hard work. She wasn't there she wasn't there. Right. She wasn't there from the bottom. I just want to let that be known.
So people will see you and they'll see your beautiful family. I've seen wonderful pictures of you, your husband, and baby Nehemiah. And it is a gorgeous, gorgeous picture.
Thank you.
But I heard you say, I was there when.
Yeah.
I remember when me and my husband first got married, we lived on 38th in California. Our rent was $500 a month. I heard all kind of things I didn't need to be hearing outside my window. And when people got out of prison at 26th in California, we took the same bus home.
Oh, wow.
Because it's 10 blocks from the prison. So literally, and I grew up in Flossmoor, Illinois, so I'm like on the bus. I started talking to them. They had good stories too. They probably got some books for you. You know what I'm saying?
All is welcome.
It wasn't where I wanted to be, and people don't see the financial struggles we had in the beginning.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about the struggle being real.
Well, what happened was he was in school full time to be an occupational therapy assistant. And we knew because of a friend who did that career path that it was a pretty lucrative career to get into. And so we got eager, and he kind of was like, you know what, you should work part-time and write part-time. He was trying to be supportive.
Right.
And I'm like, are you sure? He's like, yeah, when I graduate in May, we'll be good. So we started to kind of move too quickly. But in the beginning, it wasn't necessarily a financial struggle until I went part-time because I was making
You were doing great.
Yes, I was doing great. And then I started to make like $450 every 2 weeks. Part-time, but with the baby, and bills, and husband in school. Yes, husband in school, and we did that because he wanted me to have more time. And working in domestic violence is pretty stressful.
Yeah,
and so I started to get really burned out. And so he saw that, and he was like, "Well, why don't you just go part-time? And eventually you can just do writing full-time." But that was like, we were thinking like years down, like 5 years from now, So he graduated in May. He got offered a job, but to keep the job, it was contingent on him passing the exam.
Okay. Now we get into it.
Yeah.
He gets up to the plate to take the test.
Yes.
And what happened the first time?
So he took the test, and I remember it was December 3rd. Oh. It was his birthday. I remember.
Oh, okay.
Don't make me start singing, but I remember.
Okay.
And he didn't pass his test on his birthday. He found out, and the job was like, "Bye, you have to go home."
No. Yeah. The same day.
The same day on his birthday.
So December he didn't pass the test and lost his job on his birthday.
On his birthday.
And you thought what?
And at the time, I was working part-time.
Yeah.
And, I was making $450 every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And so initially, my default is I have to be an encouragement to him, even though it was kind of like
a good wife.
It was scary.
So let me just be clear on this. Your man tells you on his birthday he loses his job, didn't pass his test, and you encouraged him.
Absolutely.
That blessed my soul.
Absolutely.
That blessed my soul. That is a blessing.
Yeah, absolutely. I knew that I had to be strong in this situation because he probably felt like a failure or inadequate. So I didn't even acknowledge the fact that he didn't pass his test. When he called me, I was like, okay, I'm gonna come home on my lunch break and we're gonna pray together, and it'll be okay.
Yes.
Yeah. And I did that.
Did he in that moment voice the pain that he felt from not passing?
He got very quiet for a long time. And it was his birthday. So me trying to be the good wife, I planned a surprise birthday party.
Oh,
it was
that
flop.
night?
It was a flop.
Oh no.
It was horrible.
But you didn't know.
I didn't know. And so it ended up just being really bad because everybody was like saying they sorry, and that's even worse.
No. So who told the family?
We told because they knew
they knew it was coming.
They
out
knew,
that day.
yeah. It was tough, and this is December, so this is Christmas time. This is the holiday season. We're barely making $1,500 a month with the expenses we had, a newborn baby, and to retake that test, it was $500.
So let me back up a bit because he didn't voice his concerns. You were encouraging him. You were being strong for him. How did you feel in those moments?
I was definitely trying to be strong, but outside of his presence, I did cry. I would just remember going to work, trying to be happy and chipper, but I was scared. I didn't know, how we were gonna survive these months until he passed the test. Yeah. It really was a faith walk, and I just remember going to work and like coworkers, what we did when we worked together, we went out to eat and we had,
right.
Lunch,
I know. It's expensive.
It's expensive.
Yeah.
And I just remember several times, and I'm gonna try to say this without crying, but I just remember several times, like coworkers would be like, Taisha, we got you. Don't worry about it, because they knew like
what we were going
through, and so they would just be like, "Don't worry about it, we got you." And it was nothing. They didn't make me feel less of.
Wow.
Tish.
I know.
Not this makeup. But so it was kind of like, they were very supportive. But when I got around him, I did not show any emotions. Is it?
I find because I'm married, my husband recently switched jobs, but he left one job before actually having another job. And I remember feeling lonely because I would have good things going on and I wouldn't want to share that with him in moments where he wasn't able to share in the excitement. And I also recall not telling him, but your husband is your best friend.
Yeah, yeah.
And so you can't, if in any other circumstance, if I were sad, he would be who I would call.
Yeah.
But if his situation makes me sad, then you have to only call on God.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you can't also call on your spouse. And to me, I think your spouse becomes, in some ways, like a human representation of Christ's love. It's a blessing because you don't have to go through life alone. And if you have a godly spouse like we do, he shows you God's love in the physical.
Absolutely.
Whereas God shows you his love in the supernatural and in the physical at times. But that can be tough.
Yeah.
And no one really asks how we feel in those moments. And so I just wanted to give you a chance to voice how you were feeling. And I commend you for encouraging him when things get rough. Because I'm going to say, I when he first left, he told me he wanted to leave his job. I was like, where I come from.
You don't leave no job.
You don't get no job unless you have another job.
Absolutely,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I was like, well, you want to leave the job, but the mortgage ain't going to leave us alone, and the car note ain't going to leave me alone.
Absolutely.
And you start to worry, and I think that's when faith has to become real. Like, I know that they tell us in church, like, be faithful, have courage, and trust in God. And it's so easy to shout when everything is easy. Yeah. But I think that it shows a lot about your character, that when things were going well, in that moment, you immediately encouraged him. And I think that I can learn a lot from that. A lot of our viewers can learn a lot from that, because marriage isn't always about how you feel. It's not.
Absolutely not.
It's a real walk of faith.
Absolutely not.
Okay, so that was amazing. I'm just amazed by you and your story and everything. That was such a blessing.
Thank you. Praise God.
So after that, so he doesn't pass the first time, but then he takes it again. And what happens the second time?
He fails it.
Okay.
Again.
And what's your response this time?
I just knew I had to keep encouraging him. So at this point, though, I was trying to think, what can I do and actively to help him? Right.
So now it's gone encourage plus.
Yeah. We supersized this thing.
We gonna encourage. We gonna make some calls too. Right. Yes. Okay.
So I was like, okay, can I make some cue cards with you? Can we do practice tests?
Yeah. I get it.
Can we I'm asking him, what are your study techniques? Like, what's going on? Like, what do you think your weaknesses are? So I tried to do that.
Was he receptive to that?
At first it was kind of like, I got it, and then I had to explain to him, like, I'm just really doing this.
This is us.
If
you fail, I fail.
Right.
We're failing our
and
tests.
we're failing.
Yeah.
We are. And so, and now at this point, the first time we were able to come up with $500, because I had you still have a little bit of cushion when you first lose a job, because you get that one last, one last paycheck. But now it's like, boo, where are we going to get this extra $500
so the tests for $500
every time, and with one income. And so
$450 every 2 weeks.
Oh, yes.
After taxes?
Yes.
Oh, well, thank God. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank God.
Okay, so you have to pay. Okay, so you paid the $1,000 at this point, and he wants to take it again, of course.
Of course. I mean, we ain't stopping.
Right. Don't stop.
We ain't got no option.
So we're on test number 3. Your part-time job. You're writing part-time, but that's not bringing in income yet.
Absolutely not.
Right.
Not at this point.
So he takes it the third time, and what happens?
So he takes it the third time, and he passed.
Yes,
but
glory.
It was bittersweet, because actually, like, I say bittersweet because mentally I was just gone. I was sick. I was emotional.
And were you sick from the stress and the pressure?
Absolutely. Okay. When I get stressed, I get sick. My body just shuts down, and I need to really work on that. And we can probably talk about that later, but I get stressed, and so I just remember I was sick, and I wasn't feeling well. And so when he passed the test, of course I was happy, but it was kind of like a surreal situation, like, okay, things are about to turn around, but it didn't really hit me yet.
Yeah.
And so at the time, we had 2 vehicles, but one just died on us during this whole season.
Yeah, of course.
So we were down to that one car, which was my old college car that we called her Betsy, because she barely had a leg to stand on.
Okay.
So not only was my boo out of work, we had Betsy, the car who barely made it anywhere. And so it was just a crazy season. And so what happened was, he passed the test. We called everybody. It was a huge celebration. Then he was like, I got to get a reliable car, because, I'm going to get a job. Yeah. So we went. He was like, let's just go to the car lot and see, what we have to put down to get the car, and all of, to find out the logistics. So I'm like, okay, but we probably not going to get the car. And, I'm like, at this point,
I'm over it.
I'm over it.
You're
I'm
like,
drained. I'm like, whatever. Seriously, I went to the car.
We're not going to get this car.
No, fine. Whatever. I'm like, you want to go today? Okay. I looked a hot mess going into that car lot.
So at this point, your expectations were not where they needed to be.
Yeah, it was, when you first take a journey, you're on high, you're like, we can do this.
Yeah, we can get through anything.
By the end, you like barely dragging the leg
on
the ground. You're like, okay, we're going to cross this finish line with just one leg. But so we went, and it was just like, I'm sitting there coughing, and the guy talking. I'm like, okay, where do you want us to sign? Like, so he comes back and throws like 2 pair of keys on the car. And we looking like, what are you doing? You know?
Yeah.
He was like, choose. And I'm like, choose what?
Yeah.
He was like, you guys choose one of these cars. I'm like, okay, so how much we got to put down? He was like, nothing. I'm like, wait, what is going on?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like you can see God's tangible. Like you know how sometimes we know God's favor is there, but we were starting to see his tangible favor. And so we went there just thinking we were just going to run some credit and see what we could get, and we left with a car with no money down. And it was just like, and God was just like, see, I'm doing it, but still at this point I'm just so tired and drained. I didn't even realize that we were coming out of that season of like drought, and you know. And so
but now that you've gone through that, as you keep growing and as challenges come, you can look back on those moments and say, like, every prayer you've answered, every situation you've brought me out of, which allows you to dream bigger.
Yes.
That's what he was opening your eyes. Like, you have to go through something so that you can rely on God the way you need to for the big things.
So that he can get the glory, because we can't say that it was us. Yeah. And if our testimony was that perfect, then it wouldn't be a testimony. If it was like, oh, he passed the first time, oh, we got this car, you know, it wasn't like that. And so the last thing for me, when I really noticed that God was moving in our lives, especially in mine at this particular time, my husband was like, he called me at work. He was like, you know, I got a job offer. This is how much you're going to pay. And he was like, it's an hour away from the house, so I'm going to have to take the car to work. And I'm like, okay, you know, I'll figure something out. I'll get a ride to work until we can get another vehicle, because we just got this new vehicle. He was like, no, what I was thinking was maybe you can just come off your job. And I was like, what? Yeah. This was a couple of year plan. Like, we knew eventually I was going to come off, but I'm like, come off? He was like, yeah, I was thinking, you know, God opened this opportunity. He was making like triple what I was making full time.
Wow.
What I was making full time.
So when you were at your great paying job,
he was making more. And so he was like, yeah, just come home. You know, he was like, you know, I'll provide for the house. He's like, you can focus on writing.
Say I'll provide again.
He said, I'll provide. Girl, don't make me get up and shout.
He said, I ain't never gonna stop no man from saying I'll provide.
Never.
I get it. I'm a working woman. I'm a lawyer all day. I'll go in court, slay that. But let me hear I'll provide. I'll be like, I'm sorry. You're gonna have to get a new. I gotta. He gonna provide. You gonna be all right, baby. Like, I'll be like, oh, first person that offended me that day. Oh, you must think I don't got a provider at the crib. You acting like I don't need this guy. Okay? I would go home, baby, I'm coming home. Right. Okay.
So I wish it was that comical. I did give the official 2-week notice. Yes. It was bittersweet. But I came home, and you know, my coworkers, they understood. They knew that I really loved working, but they knew that I had other things that I wanted to experience. So they were happy.
So is that when you started November Media Publishing?
At that moment, I was just a writer. Okay. And so I was like, ooh, I get to finish my book series, Emotionally Discombobulated. Okay. Which is the name of my book series.
And where can they get that book?
It's on barnesandnobles.com, Amazon. Great. And I'm writing the last series now, so I'm not sure when that'll be available.
What's it about?
So, Emotionally Discombobulated is my story. It's inspired by my story as a single girl traveling through life, meeting crazy people, jokers, as my mom called them, being in these crazy relationships, and just trying to figure it out as a Christian woman. It starts there, but then the character name is Tiffany, which is me. I live vicariously through her in my mind. But she becomes an attorney. She lives in Soho, New York with her husband.
Oh, she balling.
Yeah. But she started making some very bad decisions in life. Because she started going back to some old ways. You know, sometimes when we get saved, them old ways try to creep back in. Yeah, that's real. So the whole story is just about God's redemption and his salvation and him keeping you through the whole process. Yeah. Because life is real. It's not a fairy tale.
Not for play.
Right. Yeah. It's not for the play.
Okay.
Yeah,
so you finished this series, and then how did November Media start?
Okay, so what happened was I had a few people who were like, can we go out to lunch or dinner? And so we would go out, and they would pull out these big notepads, like in front of me.
And take notes.
Yes, and I'm sitting here thinking, we're just going out for dinner. You want to get to know me, or you want to catch up?
Free services.
That was free. They was like, so how did you start writing your book? So I see your book is on Amazon. How did you do that? So, you know, it kind of like naturally happened. And I went back home and I told my husband, I said, you know, I know that I've been writing, but what do you think about me helping people publish their books? And he was like, he's like, well, try, you know, if you like it, try it or whatever. So I started researching because I don't like to just jump into anything.
Right, because you have a standard of excellence.
Right. And so I started researching. I'm like, so what does a publisher do? Mm-hmm. What are the companies I need to be connected with? Mm-hmm. And so I just started to research, learn a lot about the publishing industry. And then I felt pretty confident. Okay. And I was like, this is awesome. My first author who trusted me to put their book out, her name is Deborah Harris. Okay. And she was like, I want to work with you because I've seen your books and, you know, I just really feel like you can help me get my story out. And so from there, I thought, like, when I announced that I was going to start a publishing company on social media, mm-hmm. I was like, for sure, no one's going to, like, let me actually publish it. I was thinking, maybe I'll publish 2 books this year.
So your expectation, even after all you've been through, was still like...
But you know, I was thinking I had to get my feet wet in the industry.
That's
so
true.
I was thinking I have to build up my credentials. People have to start know me as a publisher and things and trust me.
Right.
And see my integrity, see my work. And so what happened was my first year I ended up publishing 15 books.
Oh my goodness.
First year.
Wow.
It was like God was like saying, this is what I've been preparing you for. Because
how did that feel?
It felt amazing because like even while I was working a 9-to-5 job, and I would say anyone who's working like a 9-to-5 job, don't feel like, you know, inadequate in that season or feel like, oh, this is all that I'm worth, or God, I don't want to be here. I want to be somewhere else. Really enjoy that place and see what you can learn from that place. Because even the work ethic that I learned as a court advocate, I took it into my career as a publisher. So customer service on point. Integrity and what I do.
I can vouch for that because I literally had a book date. I was supposed to give you my manuscript, like the 15th?
Yeah,
but I'm like, I gotta work.
Busy.
I gotta work a job. I gotta do, I'm over here, and it's especially difficult, and you'll understand this when you have some people work jobs. Like they go, if you work at a cash register and all you have to do is work that cash register and you could care nothing about that cash register, that's your job. You're like, I'm gonna do this job, I'm gonna get this money, I'm gonna go home. But when you have a career and a passion and a love for your career and a respect for your career, it takes extra time. It's not a 9-to-5. Like you were taking those stories home, I'm sure, even with you were giving your all on that job and everything that you had. And I think that's when it becomes difficult to do anything else. And there's also a bit of judgment from people in your career when you do anything other than that career. They're like, oh, well, she ain't serious. Oh, well, she don't want this. And well, obviously, this just isn't what you want. And they give you less responsibility on the job. And so did you have anyone that was not supportive of you being a publisher? And how did you overcome those objections to get to where you are now?
Actually, I feel like the people closest to me were very supportive, but now we have this whole aura in the African American community amongst women who are in the same profession or the same career path. So it's that whole competition thing that we have to battle with.
You owe me something. I owe you something. I made you.
And so like
I get it.
So it was
people could let me borrow a pen and they think they'd have made me.
A pen.
It was a pen. I didn't have one. You had it. I thought you were being nice. Didn't know you wanted half.
Oh my goodness, the motives, everything. So honestly, like, I got off social media for a while because I felt like I needed to focus in on what like I knew that what God was preparing me for was greater than me, but you have to shut the noise out, because when you're on social media or around certain crowds, it can get like overwhelming and it can be discouraging. And then you be like, well, why am I doing this? You know, this person is already doing it, or they're giving shots on Facebook, and now you're like, are they talking about me? Did she just come for me on Facebook?
You know what? I 100% agree with what you're saying. It resonates with me, and also I've just become 100% committed to not living in the shadows. And it was recent. I mean, because I was worried, like, well, if you put this out there, what will they say? And if you do this, what will they say? And will they think I'm disrespecting them? And if I write this, then what will they say? I can't live in the shadows because it's not my life. And to be real, they're not going to like me whether I fail or whether I succeed.
Exactly.
And I'd rather be succeeding and they hate me, to be real.
Yeah, absolutely. And I totally agree with you. And you got to kind of get to the point where you're shutting out the noise. Because people are always going to have an opinion. And you will never succeed if you're listening to that.
Or living up to that, or living limited by that.
Or comparing yourself. And I saw a quote recently, and someone said that there's no competition when you're doing what you're called to do. And that is so true. Like, I'm a publisher. I love publishing books. I love my passion behind seeing people's story come to life. That's like undeniable. So it's like, if you want to start a publishing company, good for you. That's your passion. This is my passion. I'm so focused on what I'm doing. I don't have time to compete with you. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it's like, there's no competition. I don't have any competition. I'm in my own lane. So it's like, okay, it is what it is. You can keep talking on Facebook, whatever.
So you started the publishing company. How did you get the upfront capital to start? Was it needed, or?
So I had no upfront capital. You know, we were starting pretty much over when David, you know, started his new job, and I was coming off of one job. One thing I would say, while I was working a 9-to-5 job, it was easier to fund like my book going on books. I did a book tour. It was easy to fund those things with that 9-to-5 money. So like, I would even encourage an entrepreneur, if they do work a 9-to-5, like, to use some of that money to fund your dream, because there's not the chances are you're not going to get startup capital.
Exactly.
I mean, you could probably, if that was part of your business plan, but my plan was to just start. And so I did a lot of investing from my personal funds, David and I personal funds in the beginning. Even with the first book, I ended up just doing the book like a traditional royalty deal, and just paying for the project. Because I just wanted to get started. But what happened was, it was a faith walk, you know, one author after another, and eventually I started to see my business grow, and I was like, okay, well, I mean, I wasn't making a lot of revenue at that time, but at least the business was being funded.
And when did the business become profitable?
I would say most recently, when I started to educate myself as a true businesswoman, entrepreneur, because you have to put systems in place to see that revenue. At first, I just felt like money was coming and going. Like, I'm paying this editor, this graphic designer, this, and there was no systems in place. So I feel like I'm beginning to see more profits now that I have systems in place. And that the business is organized, and things are available to like help me see that profit more clear and be able to distribute it the way that it's supposed to be. So yeah, I can see why people say it takes like 2 to 3 years to see the profit, because you develop systems to help you see the losses and the gains and the how much you made this month, you know. So that's why I think I'm beginning to see, and we're getting more authors, so that's really a blessing.
I'm trying to put out 2 or 3, so
I mean, praise God.
I will definitely be calling you. So how can people reach you if they're interested in your services? They're a budding author. How can they reach you?
So you can go to www.novembermediapublishing.com, or we're on social media, November Media Publishing. So at November Media Publishing, you can reach us that way.
And what are all your services? So if I'm a new author and I just have a book in Word document, can I come to you with that and say, help me with everything?
I mean, we're kind of like a full service publishing company. So what we consider ourselves as a hybrid publishing company, we really partner with the author to really walk through that journey of publishing with them. So whether you come into us with just a conception and you need someone to help you ghostwrite the book, or you need writing services like a writing coach, we're able to provide that service. If your manuscript is done and you it needs to go into production, we're able to start at that point as well. So it's really customizing whatever you need as an author, because that's something I wish I had as a new author.
Yeah.
It was somebody to walk through the process with me and say, okay, let's try this. Did you consider that?
Yeah.
But once your manuscript is done, we really take over and your book goes through production. Some people are like amazed at how simple it is once they're done writing the book. They're like, oh my goodness, this was so easy.
Yeah.
But that's how it should be. And when you're done, you should have an industry standard book. Like you should be able to take your book and put it up to like a Barnes and Noble's book, because now it's been created by an industry standard publishing company. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I've heard that you make more money self-publishing than if you were to go through the traditional route, because you keep more of your profit. Is that true?
So that is true. And that's why we went with the business model that we went with, being a hybrid publisher. So the only, we get paid as a publishing company is when the author pays for the production of their book. So whether you're getting the editing services, the graphic design, getting the book created, or writing services. But once the book is done, you keep 100% of the profit. And we do help you get into bookstores, and we do, your book will be available at all major media outlets. We have a lot of perks as a company because we want to offer the traditional publishing field.
Yeah.
It's a journey, but we want to make sure you keep all of your royalties, because it's your book, it's your passion. And one thing I didn't mention was one of my books in the book series got picked up by a publishing company in Atlanta.
Congrats.
Yeah. So like before I actually started my company, I was able to work with another publishing company, and I learned a lot from that company. I learned the good and the bad.
Yeah.
And so all I remember was I spent a lot of time writing this book, and they were getting 70% of my profit. And so I was like, this is not a good model. Like, I worked hard for this book. And so I knew when I started November Media Publishing that I wanted to do it differently, my business model differently. I wanted to make sure you had a really good book that could hold up in the industry. And I wanted you to keep 100% of your royalties.
That is amazing. If there were any words of advice that you could give to a woman who wants to start her own publishing company, what would you tell her? Or him?
Oh my goodness. Do a lot of research. Get a mentor if you can. Join publishing associations. I'm a part of a publishing association, Independent Book Publisher Association, and just really become knowledgeable, not just as a publisher, but as an entrepreneur and business owner.
Phenomenal advice. Well, Taisha, it was a pleasure to have you.
Oh, it was an honor to be here.
Your story is amazing.
Oh, thank you.
NovemberMediaPublishing.com. If you have a story, let someone tell it. Who cares?
Yes.